We're going to go back in for continued conversations in pursuit of buttoning up the budget. The Environment Committee is holding a public hearing today. Education, which I understand has concluded, will hold a public meeting next Monday. I know Transportation, which buttoned up yesterday, will hold a public meeting early next week. They're working on the scheduling of that. We have a little bit of work left to do, but everybody is making progress, and I feel very hopeful about the conclusion of these negotiations and our ability to get the special session underway as soon as we understand that things are done and the governor is able to review and then call that special session.
What about traveling separately, the undocumented health care or part of the big bill? Or?
It is, my continued contention and belief, which I've expressed clearly, that if that is to pass, it's going to have to pass separately.
Has that been agreed to either way? Or?
I think that the agreement that we reached means that we have to pass it, and the only way to pass it is in a separate bill.
The whole thing or just parts of it? Is some of it in Health and Human Services and some of it is standalone?
I think that the measure dealing with undocumented health care will travel separately.
Does the governor's timeline for special? Walls said this morning he thinks early to mid next week is when he
It really
could call it.
depends on when the bills and the negotiations wrap and our ability to process that work, his ability to review that work, but we're hoping and working very hard to meet an early to mid next week deadline.
Does the governor's travel to South Carolina or California on Saturday complicate the budget negotiations?
As I understand it, he will be available by phone and by Zoom, and no, we will be able to continue to do our work.
On the docket for today?
I think the things that are still open and need some attention are Health and Human Services and taxes. The bonding issue, it appears my Republican colleagues are not interested in bonding at all. They are not engaging, and I think the chair or the lead for the Republicans is out of town. So I don't think that there's going to be more work done on bonding. They just don't seem interested in that, but we're focused right now on getting everything done.
Can you expand on why they don't, or what makes you observe that they don't seem interested?
The fact that they're not engaging in the issue.
The meeting's early next week. Those are working group meetings still. This isn't conference committee yet. There's still working group meetings early next week you're alluding to.
Yeah, we will complete this work in working groups, and when a special session is called, the fruit of those working groups will be introduced as bills, and then those bills will be processed.
And who makes the decision whether or not the working group should meet in public or behind closed doors?
It is my request and my expectation for the Senate chairs to hold public meetings, and they are complying with that. And for the most part, I think so is the House.
How many of these working groups still have work to do? What's still left?
Primarily taxes and Health and Human Services.
Leader Johnson has said that you have not approached him regarding any sort of deals to make with Senate Republicans. So does that mean you're confident that you have the votes in the Senate Democrats to pass all the budgets?
I've had a couple of conversations with Mark Johnson this week about the next number of days.
What have you talked to him about? Are you trying to whip his votes?
No, I am trying to work with him as I have all session as the leaders of the Senate to make sure that we're able to complete our work.
Could you clarify with the layoff notices? The governor said the nurses would get them tomorrow, then he mentioned June 9th, the 21 days. Are there more that go out June 1st? Do you have any more information on that?
As I understand it, is nurses and perhaps some who work at M-State and Min-State that go first, and then the balance would go on June 9th.
Is there a time at which you might take taxes or human services away from the working groups to solve in there?
It is an incredible notion that bills get stripped away, and what we've experienced thus far in transportation is a really great example where the chairs of the House Republicans, the House Democrats, and the Senate were getting stuck, and instead of taking the bill away, we added our finance chairs, so Zach Stevenson, Paul Torkelson, and John Marty, to help usher through the negotiation that yielded an outcome. So from my perspective, all of these bills, these budget bills will be better served if the members who have expertise are involved, and sometimes they just need a little help.
So you mentioned that you had requested that chairs in the Senate make these working group meetings public. Are you disappointed that they haven't been, at least with Health and Human Services, there hasn't been an education working group public, as far as I'm aware.
So I understand that some have not done that yet, but they know that they will. So education is going to hold a public meeting next Monday. I know the Jobs Conference Committee held a public meeting this week, which was, I thought, extremely instructive, in that the one issue that is being the stickler there is the non-compete language. And what we heard from the Republicans in that conference or in that working group was that they were working closely with the business partnership and hoping to strike a deal with them and not really talking with the Senate conferees at all, which is a warning flag for us. I mean, if we're going to find a conclusion, and the Senate came into this work not wanting to change the law at all, and it is the House Republicans that want a law change, and they're going to have to talk with us about that if that is going to happen.
Is that resolved now?
It is not resolved yet.
Besides Minnesota Care for Undocumented Immigrants, any other measures you see might have to be a standalone bill separate from a larger spending bill?
I don't. It's really great to talk with you.
Yep.
Thank you for your patience
Thanks,
and
folks.
for your vigilance. It's really important. I'll see you soon.
Thank
Get
you.
outside.
Thank
Get
you.
outside.
Going back into conversations, again, I think it's really important to recognize that all of the committees or the work groups, as known right now, have been talking. There's a couple of sticking points. We're going to have conversation when we go in the next meetings with the governor, but we're still in a very good position. Hopefully getting this thing wrapped up sooner rather than later is always the goal, but I still am incredibly optimistic. Nothing is completely stuck or shut down.
How many of these working groups do you believe are still stuck and not finished with their work?
I think there's probably 2, maybe 3 that have just a few little things that we'll be discussing. But I remain very, very optimistic that we're very close, and hopefully as we move through the day, the governor should be able to announce a special session in the next few, not the special session, but making that announcement in the next couple of days to know where we'll land. I feel very good about that.
Documented health care going to go separately, or is it,
That has not been a part of the discussion in the rooms.
what do you prefer?
When we talked about changing the way things are being done, so talking about the health insurance for undocumented adults, keeping the undocumented children still on the plan, that had never been a discussion in the room as far as setting that out separately.
Does the governor's travel on Saturday to South Carolina and California complicate the budget negotiations?
I am not familiar with the governor's schedule. I guess that hasn't come up as a topic, and here you maybe know a little bit more about his schedule than I do. But we're working hard. As you saw, we took that little bit of a pause over last weekend, not because things had broken down in any way, but to give people the opportunity to just step away for a few minutes. Some of the groups continue to work modified, and so that work is going to continue going forward until this is done.
The original projection or hope was to have a one-day special session before Memorial Day. Obviously, it didn't happen. Why has this taken so much longer than projected?
When you look at the makeup of the legislature right now, the most closely divided legislature in the country, specifically with the tie in the House Democrats and Republicans have worked together very, very well. We haven't always seen eye to eye, but we've worked together very well. And so that work is continuing. Then the work that is being done in the Senate, they have their own challenges and dynamic. Bringing those together has taken more time than expected. But again, remember the delayed start in the House because of 23 days where our Democrat colleagues were not here. We're not 23 days past when we were supposed to be done on May 19th, but it has taken a little bit longer. Again, nothing has broken down, and I think that is commendable with the chairs and those that are working on the details of this, but we just need a little bit more time.
You agree with the timeline of next week, though? Like, is that when you're
The
seeing?
governor is the one that will call that special session. These meetings that we're going into are incredibly important that kind of lay out that plan. I'm very hopeful. From before, I thought we could have done it by May 19th, but it's not because things broke down. It just took a little more time. People are working very late at night, very early in the morning in the different groups.
Has Senator Mark Johnson been able to still be included in some of these meetings?
Senator Johnson, I can't speak to his schedule or how he is handling things right now, but he is not in the meetings as of the last few days. He was invited by the governor to be a part of things in the very beginning. I think that was incredibly wise so he could understand where things were moving. With such a closely divided Senate, specifically divided by just that one, I think Republican votes may be needed, and that's an important thing to recognize. So having even a minority caucus involved has been important.
So he hasn't been there.
He has not been the last few days, no.
Are you troubled by the amount of negotiating over this budget that has taken place behind closed doors, both in the working groups and in these, larger negotiations?
As things have moved through the regular session, those provisions that were heard in public are what are still being discussed right now, and those were in committee hearings, House and Senate. So as far as things going on behind closed doors, it is still the committee chairs and those working groups, which were known as conference committees, those people are still involved. So nothing has been taken away where those people aren't involved. So it has been transparent all the way through, maybe just a little bit less right now, but not for trying to hide anything in any way.
Senator Murphy said Republicans didn't seem interested in bonding. Are you interested in passing a bonding bill?
We have set that target of $700 million in bonding, and our chairs are still working very, very hard on that. What is being talked about right now looks very good. I would say House Republicans are quite interested in a bonding bill.
I think we're getting close. A lot of good work is happening. The tax committee had several in-person meetings. I think you got a sense of how difficult it is to close the gaps between the Senate DFL, House GOP, and House DFL. Certainly, we're going to hear from folks involved in the tax debate this afternoon to find out if there's any suggestions we can make to help them close up their bill. That is probably the biggest outstanding bill. The health folks are very close. They've been exchanging offers. There's been some very good bipartisan work. The House folks are united across party lines, and so we're hoping that one closes soon. And then I think E12 is very, very close to being finally concluded as well.
What about being care for undocumented? Will that be a standalone? Will that be part of Health and Human Services?
We haven't had that conversation yet because we don't have a locked health spreadsheet, so we haven't moved on to special session logistics from the substantive content of the bills. Once we get the substantive content of the bills locked down, then we move into the logistics conversation about how exactly will a special session unfold. What would be the timeline? What would be the hearing process before the special session?
Technically, you don't need a tax bill, but is there revenue in there that you need to do the rest of the budget? Or?
Exactly. We do need a tax bill because the revenue in there is critical to the overall deal. That's right.
Do you anticipate these negotiations will be done and you get all the work to the reviser?
I hope that by midnight tonight, the reviser will have everything they need to create final bill drafts to post. It could be that there's a couple issues that are hangovers until tomorrow midday, but my hope would be that 98% of the work would be delivered to the reviser tonight.
In your caucus, there was hard feelings over the undocumented health. Has that been papered over, or peace in the valley, or are people still nose out of joint, or where are they?
Well, I think in the Minnesota House of Representatives, the DFL has had to contend with an obstinate Republican 67 vote block since the very beginning, from their unconstitutional takeover of the House chamber that was struck down by the Minnesota Supreme Court, to sort of the unreasonable behaviors during the 6 weeks when we were 67, 66. And every moment choosing between bipartisanship and partisanship, for them to be choosing partisanship. So the Minnesota House DFL is accepting that as a condition of the House GOP better than the Senate DFL, because the Senate DFL has only had to deal with this very partisan GOP group for the last few weeks.
So have hard feelings been calmed down from where they were pounding on the door a couple weeks ago, whatever it was, 10 days ago?
We're able to work with the House GOP because we're practiced at it.
But internally, among your caucus?
No, well, we hate it. I mean, it's a cold-hearted, partisan, ideological stance that is not required to settle a budget. But that is the condition that's been demanded by the House GOP, and is a condition we agreed to resolve the budget.
So your understanding there will not be a bonding bill this year?
Yeah, I think Senator Mark Johnson has a price tag that includes lots and lots of other things far outside of the bonding bill. And so I think he's going to overplay his hand exactly as he did in 2024. And there will again not be a bonding bill. And it will be because the Senate GOP caucus has decided that there will not be a bonding bill. Oh, he just wants to rewrite every other bill. Yeah.
What's your message for state employees who may begin to get layoff notices?
Yeah, it's really frustrating, and I'm very sorry that those have to go out on June 1st. We are very confident that there will be a budget in place very soon. We are working to make sure that as they are receiving those notices, that they can point to a date on the calendar when the special session will happen, and that they can also, in fact, point to bills that have been posted that will fund all these agencies, so that we can do our best to minimize stress that they shouldn't have to be going through right now.
So just to be clear, we've been hearing that Johnson isn't in these meetings, but you're saying he's still part of these negotiations?
Senator Erin Murphy invited him, just to be clear, and Senator Murphy's made that clear at every press conference we've been with Representative Demuth at. So it is this Senator Erin Murphy's invitation and good graces that he was at the table until we signed the deal, which he did not sign. And now we are at the part of the process where we're going to implement the deal. And so since he is not part of the deal, it doesn't make sense for him to be there. Okay.
Thanks.
Nice to see you.